Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm back, dear students, to continue with the linking verb. So when we say Sue seems unhappy, so once again unhappy is a complement of subject. Okay, in terms of function of the sentence, patterns are the same as seen below each tree diagram. And now, dear students, we are moving with a new kind or type of verb, that is complex transitive verb. So this is another class of verb that appears with a complement. The complement relates to the object. So well, I want to say something here, that a complex transitive verb must be followed by a direct object or an object and a complement of object. Otherwise, the sentence will not be meaningful and it can't stand alone. And the complement seems to be obligatory, okay? As you see, here I have a sentence: the voters elected Mary. So the voters elected Mary president. Okay, so president is a complement of object. You cannot say the voters elected Mary and then you stop. Elected here what? So president. Okay, so the voters is the subject, it's the noun phrase, and elected is the verb, that is a transitive complex verb, and Mary is the object or direct object, and president is a complement of object. It's very important to know in English that we have something called complement of object, and in semantics we call this complement of object, and in Arabic we call this complement of object. This is, this when it comes to semantics. If I say أريدك أن تحضر الماء, أريدك, so أريدك, okay, the kaf becomes object هنا, okay, الضمير المتصل يصبح مفعول به, and أن تحضر الماء يصبح هنا مكمل للمفعول به. In English we say I want you, أريدك, I want you to bring water, to bring some water. So to bring some water is a complement of object. Let me analyze the sentence here, students. I want you. I is a subject. Want is a complex transitive verb. You is an object. And to bring some water for me is the complement of object. Kate thought John a fool. Kate thought John a fool. It means Kate thought John to be a fool. So a fool is complement of object or object complement, as you see. So that is a complex transitive verb. With the complex transitive verb, two elements are obligatory to complete the verb phrase. In these cases, two noun phrases are needed. We have subject and we have noun phrase, verb phrase. So noun, as you see, Kate, the verb phrase, we have the verb, noun phrase, and we have the second noun phrase, thought John a fool. So that is the first noun phrase and that is the second noun phrase, as you see. But you can make a general rule that a complex verb requires a direct object that must be followed by a noun phrase. It can be followed by infinitive, it can be followed by adjective. When I say, Kate thought Johnny crazy, and so on. Kate made his mom very angry. So very angry is an adjective phrase or adjective, and that is a complement of object. We will have other examples. Some verbs belong to more than one verb class. Elected, for instance, can also be classified as a transitive verb. Example, the voters elected Mary. So the voters elected Mary. So here, the verb elected can function as a transitive verb. It means the voters chose Mary. Selected Mary, but it is better to say what did they elect here. Here the verb elected occurs simply with the direct object Mary when it appears in the complex transitive verb slot. However, an object complement is necessary, as in the voters elected Mary president, which relates back to Mary. I mean, Mary was elected a president. Ray told the children a story. The situation here is different because the verb told is the transitive verb. I mean, taking a direct object and indirect object, and here we have two noun phrases, and the same applies to this transitive complex verb. John is the first noun phrase, and a fool is the second noun phrase. The structure of both these sentences are similar in illustrating the transitive verbs. Let's say in both cases the verb phrase is completed by two consecutive noun phrases in A and C, I mean sentence number A, C, though the noun phrases are functioning respectively as indirect object, the children, and direct object, a story in 8D, as you see. So the situation is different. That is a complement of object. It doesn't function as indirect or direct object. So the situation is different because, once again, a fool is a complement of object. So, dear students, you have to understand that English language is unlike Arabic in this case. Therefore, how can we tell the difference between the two types of verbs? As mentioned before, one test for the transitive verb is, this is very easy, is to use the Verb Phrase. When I said, okay, once again, I want to do this in practice, okay, to test whether this is the transitive verb or not, can I say, Kate thought a fool for John? It doesn't have meaning. So I can say John thought a fool for John, or Kate thought John for a fool. So that is the test. If a verb is the transitive, then the noun phrase immediately followed the verb function as indirect object. Therefore, we can try converting the noun phrase occupying that function in the examples given to a prepositional phrase, and that will not work. That doesn't go. Rami told the story to the children. Kate thought a fool to or for John. So the second one doesn't have meaning because that doesn't go in English syntax or grammar or even semantics. An object complement can also take the form of a Verb Phrase. Example, Carol put the car in the garage. So you will see that this Verb Phrase is obligatory, and that is adverbial, and it can be complement of object or object complement. If you say Carol put the car and then you stop, Carol put the cow, Carol bought the computers, Muhammad bought the car, and then you stop. That doesn't have meaning, so it must be post modified, it must be complemented, there must be a complement. So that's why we call this complement of object, because it complements the direct object. George stood the lamp on the table, or George put the lamp on the table. So on the table is a Verb Phrase functioning as object complement or complement of object. Both these verb phrases are incomplete without the second constituent, which is the Verb Phrase. So say George stood the lamp, and then you stop. That doesn't have meaning. So Carol put the car, George stood the lamp, that doesn't have meaning. So as you see, we have the Verb Phrase, we have the preposition, and then we have the noun phrase determiner and the noun garage, and so on. What is the difference between these examples? Ken put the cake in the oven. She gave a bone to a dog, as you see. The good point is that the verb put is a transitive complex verb, because you cannot say Ken put the oven in for the cake. No. She gave a bone to the dog. Here, once again, you can't drop the Verb Phrase and you say Ken put the cake. That doesn't have meaning. She gave a bone to the dog. You can say she gave a dog, she gave the dog a bone. Well, I want to explain this so you understand the distinction. In the first sentence, the verb phrase in the oven is a complement of object. In the second sentence, the verb phrase is the indirect object. Is the indirect object. So because this is the direct object, okay? And you can say she gave a bone. When it is an answer to a question, I would say, what did she give the dog? The right answer, a bone. She gave a bone, and so on. In the first example, the prepositional phrase in the oven is an object, complement as I said. And in the second one, it is indirect object. The third category, which can appear as an object complement, is the adverb phrase. Okay, as in, John made Kate angry. Kate called John stupid. So remember this. So that is a complement of object, and that is a complement of object. As you see, we have verb phrase, we have adverb phrase, so we have angry, etc. And now a prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase require a prepositional verb a prepositional verb requires a prepositional phrase in order to be complete. Verbs like glance, lean, refer, fall, okay, into this class, okay? So once again, verbs like glance, look, lean, refer, fall into this class or are included in this class. A glance must be followed by a preposition, a glance at, lean over on, lean on, يرتكز على, look at, refer to. So I can say this refer Ahmed, this refers to Ahmed. So these verbs and the like must be followed by prepositions. That's why we call them prepositional phrases. Like when I say depend on, rely on, bank on, and so on. They are so closely linked with a preposition that it is easy to think of them as verbs consisting of two parts, as in glance at, lean on, refer to, ينظر إلى, يتكئ على, and refer to. Okay, and we have the verb stick to, يلتزم به, keep on, يلتزم, keep to, يلتزم به, abide by, يلتزم به, and so on. So these verbs are followed by prepositions. Sally leaned on the table. Sally ركزت على الطاولة. We must use a full stop. Sally leaned, that doesn't have meaning, that doesn't go. The children glanced at the pictures. You cannot say the children glanced at the pictures. No, the children glanced. So the function of the prepositional phrase in this structure is prepositional object. Therefore, another function is to be remembered. So here we have a verb phrase and we have a preposition plus noun phrase. Okay. As you see, example, adverb. Okay, we have indirect object, complement of subject, complement of object, and then we have a prepositional. Okay. We have a prepositional object. A prepositional object. Sally looked up. Sally looked up the chimney. So gave a jumper to Oxfam. George is in the garden. Carol put the car in the garage or garage. The children glanced at the pictures. Sally looked up. So that is an adverb. Sally looked up the chimney. That is an object, direct object, and Sue gave a jumper to Oxfam. To Oxfam is indirect object, and George is in the garden. That is a complement of subject, and okay, and at the pictures. So once again is a verb phrase, or we call this prepositional object because we say glance is a verb and at is a preposition, and noun phrase, the pictures, is object of a preposition. That's why we call it prepositional object. Okay, we have this tree diagram. As you see, we have the noun phrase. Okay, we have the verb phrase. The verb is, okay, we have this. Okay, glanced. Okay, remember that is a prepositional verb. Okay, glanced, as you see, that is the verb. And then we have the verb phrase, we have the preposition at. And then we have the noun phrase, as you see, determiner and noun. So the sentence is well represented in this tree diagram. Okay, so a verb phrase consists of a prepositional verb plus a prepositional object. That is a prepositional object, or you can say a preposition and an object of a preposition. If I say Sally is hiding behind the door, so behind is a preposition and the door is object of a preposition. So as you say, a prepositional object consists of a verb phrase. I mean a prepositional phrase. The children glanced at the pictures, okay, at the pictures. So once again, at the pictures. So that is the verb phrase. The verb phrase must consist of, a noun phrase. So that is a prepositional object. So consisting of, once again, prepositional phrase. And now we move to the imperative, صيغة الأمر. Most of the example sentences so far have been declaratives, جمل تصريحية. Let's say they make some kind of declaration or assertion and they have a complete thought or complete idea and they end with a period or full stop. Being in the declarative mood, صيغة الأمر, they have followed the structure, noun phrase plus verb phrase function, subject and predicate or verb. The imperative mood differs in that it is used to give commands or instructions. So صيغة الأمر تختلف عن الجمل التصريحية حيث أنها طبعا تعطي أوامر أو تعليمات. Sentences and imperative may omit the subject noun phrase. Okay, I want to say that the noun phrase is not needed or it's not necessary. I mean, the subject is deleted. Close the door. Okay, here we have a deleted or unomitted noun phrase or subject. It means you close the door. Ahmed close the door or close the door. Ahmed, etc. Beat the eggs lightly. اخفق البيض بهدوء. Okay. Or قليلا. Beat the eggs lightly. So these examples use a different structure from those looked at so far. As you see, the close is a verb phrase and the door is a noun phrase. So in the structures we will have this, we will have sentence, then we'll have verb phrase, and then we'll have noun phrase. We have determiner, the, and we have the noun door. It is possible or passable to give commands and instructions without using the imperative. So here we use the polite request. Could you close the door? Could you close the door? Could you open the door? So here we have the auxiliary or the modal, then we have the noun phrase, then we have the verb phrase, then we have the noun phrase. So we have the modal, then we have the noun phrase, and we have the verb, the lexical verb, and then we have the noun phrase. So remember here the subject is inverted because it comes after the auxiliary or the modal. This is more of an instruction than a question. The term imperative therefore refers to the structure of the sentence rather than its function in conversation. So we focus on the structure, not the function, because I would say, could you open the door? It has the same function. I need you to open the door. I want you to open the door. Okay, there's a function. I mean, that is a request. Okay, I would say you open the door, let the door be open, the door should be open, it is better for the door to be open, it's hot in here. So we have different expressions actually expressing the same function, which means requesting someone to open the door. That can be direct or indirect. So we have subject, we have verb phrase. As you see, sentence, verb phrase, we have the verb and noun phrase. Sentence, verb phrase, we have the verb and the noun phrase. Okay, we have the clause, and then the door, as you see. We have verb and we have the direct object. The same, beat the eggs lightly, so we have subject, verb phrase, and we have adverb phrase, lightly. Try to have a look at this, see how the situation is different here. Okay, we have sentence, as you see, we have the sentence and we have verb, but in the declarative sentences, that is the noun, that is noun phrase, and here we have verb phrase. So the situation is different. Okay, beat the eggs lightly. So we have noun phrase, determiner, and noun, and so on. Dear students, that's the end of class 1, and now we want to move to functions of the sentence. Functions of the sentence. Okay, dear students, and now, okay, well, I'm going to continue with the functions of sentence. Actually, there are 4 types of functions performed by sentences: declarative, interrogative, imperative, or exclamatory. التصريحية، الاستفهامية، صيغة الأمر، والاستفهام التعجب. A declarative sentence, okay. A declarative sentence makes a declaration or a statement which is in contrast to a command, a question, or an exclamation. This is the most common type of sentences. The subject comes before the verb in the declarative sentence, which always ends in a full stop or period. Here we have examples. My parents like to watch bullfights. My parents like to watch bullfights. صراع الثيران. She said, I don't love dogs as much as she does. Okay, so we have a period or full stop. He is not as friendly as he looks. Okay, the hotel restaurant serves cooked apples mixed with fish. Many universities in Gaza have become commercial institutions. So as you see, all these are declarative statements. They begin with the subject or noun phrase and they end with a full stop. The second type in terms of sentence function is interrogative sentence. الجملة الاستفهامية. An interrogative sentence asks a question and ends in a question mark. This distinguishes it from other types of sentences, declarative, etc. Is a long time smoker like you able to do that? Blow smoke rings. Is a long time smoker like you able to do that? Blow smoke rings, and so on. So we have a question. So once again, that is asking a question. Do you expect me to believe what you just said? Question. So the auxiliary verb appears before the subject, as you see. Who's coming along with us? The haunted castle tonight. Okay, so once again, who's coming along with us to the haunted castle tonight? Haunted, مسكونة بالأرواح. One of the question words, who, what, where, when, why, and how, okay, is used here to ask a question, as in the subject is unknown. The question word who doesn't invert with the auxiliary verb. So once again, I want to say something. Okay, we'd say Ram is coming today. Well, sometimes we don't have a question word. Okay, Saib is leaving tonight. So that is a question. Remember this. Imperative sentence. An imperative sentence gives an instruction, expresses command or issue or request or a request. The subject is not normally shown in the imperative sentence, while the verb used is always in the base form. That is a verb without any ending, such as sed or ing. So we have to use the base form. Go now, come tomorrow, okay, see you tomorrow, and so on. So that is very easy. I would say look at the sky, don't come late, don't smoke here, okay, etc. Examples, okay, bake it in the oven until golden brown. Instructions, so bake the cake or the bread in the oven until it has become golden brown. Make a full report to your superior before the end of the week. That is a command. Okay, please get me a carton of frozen yogurt on your way home. So that is a request. And you can say, could you bring? Will you kids stop shouting? A question phrase as a request. Don't just stand there. Do something, anything to show you are busy. Okay? Never be late again. You, dear students, leave the place as quickly as possible. We want to finish now exclamatory sentence. An exclamatory sentence is not unlike a declarative sentence conveying strong feelings or emotion such as excitement, surprise, anger, or shock. It typically ends with an exclamation mark. So here we have examples. Wait, I'm coming along. Excitement. We thought you weren't coming. Surprise. But you said you would pay me back today. Anger. We read how the grandmother was treated. Shocking. I want a bit again. Happiness. I'm really going to miss you a lot. Sadness. What a terrible waste of time waiting for the rain to stop. What a hot day. What a beautiful gale, etc. So that is the end of a presentation, of our presentation today, dear student. Thank you so much for joining me.